Hey folks, Dr. Joe Esposito here. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day. I am, as I usually do. Most days are pretty good. And today we're going to talk about food labels. And this is a question that I get, just about every day, several times a day. And people come into my offices and say, well, Dr. Joe, take a look at this. Is this good for me? And they'll bring in their supplements. They'll bring in food samples, packages. And a lot of times I get emails. And people say, what is your opinion on such and such? And I'll say, well, I never heard of that product, or I'll have to look it up. And sometimes I know about it. But I want you to have a better working knowledge as to what a food label is and what this stuff really means. Because I remember years ago when I first was getting into nutrition, I remember looking at food labels and going, gosh, I don't know what 90% of this stuff is. And the one thing that stuck out in my mind was hydrolyzed vegetable protein. And I looked at hydrolyzed vegetable protein and I said, okay, well, vegetables are good and protein is good. So I guess hydrolyzed vegetable protein is a good thing. And then when I, years later, started researching what that was, when they add an acid to vegetable protein, and it frees up something called glutamic acid. Now, glutamic acid is called an amino acid, and we need amino acids, absolutely. Amino acids are very, very important to our bodies. But too much of an isolated amino acid can cause problems, especially glutamic acid, or another one is aspartic acid. And glutamic acid, when it gets into your brain, is an excitotoxin. What that means is it causes the brain to fire faster than it's supposed to. And when the brain fires faster than it's supposed to, it literally burns out your brain cells. Aspartic acid, same thing. Aspartic acid is from, you'll see it in aspartame, aspartic acid. Aspartame is an artificial sweetener, and it's called an excitotoxin, and it causes the brain to physically burn out or excite itself too much. Glutamic acid you'll find in something called monosodium glutamate. There you go. That's where that word comes from, glutamic acid. And when glutamic acid is in the brain, just like aspartic acid, it can cause neurological damage. Now, I'm a chiropractor. I'm board certified in chiropractic, orthopedics, double board certified in nutrition, BS in nutrition, a retired dietitian, award-winning author, nationally syndicated radio show host, television show host. And I've been walking up and down the halls of my office for now 32 years. So these credentials qualify me to give you this information because my goal is to get you, whether you actually come to me as a patient or not, I consider you my patient, is to help you get well and stay well naturally. And so a patient comes in our office for chiropractic care. Maybe they have neck pain or shoulder pain or numbness. And in fact, right before I went on the air, one of the girls who works here in the studio grabbed me and said, "Can you take a look at my shoulder?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And it was funny, right before I went on, another fellow grabbed me, one of the engineers, and said, "Take a look at this one gal's back. She's bent over. She can't even walk. And see if you can find her." And she must have went home. I couldn't find her here. But so many people come to me and my team of doctors with neck pain and back pain and shoulder pain. But if I'm treating you chiropractically and you're not taking care of yourself chemically, I'm not going to get the results that I want, and you're probably not going to get the results you want. So when I say chemically, I mean food. So let's assume you come to me and you say, well, Dr. Joe, I have headaches. And I do an examination. I find a bone in your neck out of place, pinching a nerve, and that's the nerve that goes up into your head. It's the greater occipital nerve. And you're having headaches around the back of your ear into your eye. So I say, okay, you got a pinched nerve in your upper neck. I'm going to put that back in place, and you should be fine. But if you're doing things like aspartic acid, aspartame, and monosodium glutamate, I might fix the physical problem, but I'm not getting to the chemical problem because you're still doing these problems. So that's why I want to teach you how to read food labels, because my job is get you well, and your job is help me do it. Now, I hadn't seen this in a while. There was a commercial for chicken. And it was for soup. And they said, well, we realize that chicken is the number one most important thing in our soup. So now we use chicken with no steroids and no hormones. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. Because there are certain things you can't put in chicken regardless. So you'll see this claim for chicken, turkey, even pork, sometimes with milk and beef as well. Why is it misleading when it says no added growth hormones? U.S. Department of Agriculture doesn't allow farmers to feed hormones to poultry or pork. So here we are seeing a commercial that says no hormones or steroids added. And by law, we can't feed them hormones anyway. So it's like saying, well, there's no gasoline in my drinking water. Well, of course not. You can't put gasoline in drinking water. It's illegal. So it's a little bit misleading. Well, not a little bit. It's very misleading. If you read the fine print, any pork or poultry product that is advertised as hormone-free must legally be accompanied by the disclaimer, federal regulations prohibit the use of hormones. It's kind of a silly little thing there, but it makes it sound good. Oh, my chicken doesn't have hormones. My chicken's better than your chicken. Now, producers of these meats use antibiotics instead, which speed the growth the same way hormones do. So we can't give you growth hormones, but we can give you antibiotics, which will then act the same way. USDA calls this increasing feed efficiency. I love that term. It's increasing feed efficiency by giving you antibiotics to get into your system, which can now cause serious immune problems. It weakens your immune system. So even when you see the label on dairy or beef products, products where hormones are legally allowed, they haven't been verified by a third party. So you're basically taking the grower's word. That's another thing. Are the growers lying? I don't know. I hope not. I really do. You know, people ask me all the time, well, Dr. Joe, what about organic? If the thing says organic, is that something that we can trust? And my answer is, at least you got a good shot at it. If it doesn't say organic, we know it's not organic. If it does say organic, chances are very high that it is organic. So no added growth hormones, not necessarily true. So the best way to get around that, well, it's true, but it doesn't mean anything. The way to get around it, you want to buy, if you're going to do animal products, meat, dairy, cheese, butter, yogurt, ice cream, eggs, I recommend organic only. They're both free of added hormones and antibiotics, and any organic poultry products have to follow certain guidelines. Like I said, is it organic? Chances are, yes, it is. But I don't eat meat. I haven't had any animal products in over 30 years. Now, that doesn't mean that you should become a vegan. I'd love for you to become a vegan. It's the only diet ever, and I did a show on this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. It's the only diet ever that's been proven to help reduce heart disease in a majority of the patients who do it, a plant-based diet. So to me, that's the default diet. There is no better diet than a plant-based diet. You can make better plant-based diets, like you could eat more raw food, stay away from sugars, but plant-based diet is going to be the ultimate diet when it comes to fighting disease. But if you're going to do animal products, because I'm a realist, I get you're not going to do everything I say, I'm going to recommend you do organic only. Now, the word natural, that's another one that's a thorn in my side. Now, I've been talking about this for 30-plus years now, the word natural. What does that all mean? Now, the implications of this label can make anyone feel like it's, fresh from the farm, and it's right to your table, and it's nice and natural, but that doesn't mean what you think it does. In fact, I have to laugh sometimes. If you've ever been to the dairy section or the beef section of a lot of grocery stores or even on commercials, they'll have a cow out in a pasture, and there'll be a little, a fence around it with a farmhouse in the distance and a rooster sitting on the fence and the sun rising, and you think, my food is so pure. If you've ever seen how cows and pigs and chickens are raised, you should. If you haven't seen it, you should. And if that alone doesn't convince you, you probably should be cutting back or cutting out your animal products, the commercially raised ones. I'm not sure what else I can do to convince you of that. The way they're raised, they're stuck in pens. They're under stress. They hear the other animals being slaughtered, knowing that they're next. The adrenal glands produce adrenaline. It makes the meat tough. It puts a lot of cortisol into the meat, which is a hormone that when you eat it can affect your health. But I digress. What does the word natural mean? USDA has defined it as any product containing no artificial ingredient or added color and is only minimally processed. A process which does not fundamentally alter the raw product. The definition, however, doesn't make any statements about how the animals are raised or whether the animals are fed hormones or antibiotics. So it's still meat, and you can say the meat is all natural, but the cows are fed steroids, chemicals, hormones, antibiotics, pesticides, herbicides, tranquilizers, genetically modified food. None of that goes into play there. Food and Drug Administration regulates fruits and vegetables and most processed foods, but doesn't have really an official term for it. Essentially, a product can be natural as the manufacturer would like you to believe and may contain things like GMOs, artificial sweeteners, high fructose corn syrup. So just because something says natural, I don't want you to fall for that and go, oh, well, it's natural, it must be good. Again, organic is going to be your best bet. you can simply buy more fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and grains, and the fewer the ingredients, the better off you're going to be. And that's a good rule. The less ingredients, the better. And here's another rule. If you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. So read the ingredients, and if you see something that you can't pronounce or don't know what that word means, I would say don't eat it. So the more natural foods, like you're thinking natural, are going to have fewer ingredients and pronounceable ingredients. Now, you're thinking to yourself, if you're your first time listening, because every now and then I'll get an email from somebody, and they'll hear one segment of one show that I did, and it's not often, maybe 3-4 times a year. I got one the other day about dairy products. Well, Dr. Joe, you say dairy products are bad. What about, why don't you ever talk about organic dairy? Well, if you've ever listened to my shows on a regular basis, I say if you're going to do dairy, make sure it's organic. But you may be thinking to yourself, if you're a new listener, why is this guy who's a chiropractor and a pain management guy and a orthopedic or non-surgical orthopedist, why is he talking so much about food? Because when I take on a patient, I want to get their nervous system working, their digestive system working, and good nutrition. Those are the three things I want to have so that you can obtain and maintain good health. That's my plan. I don't want you suffering. And I want to make sure that if you come in our office, you're going to get the best results you possibly can. That's why I stress so much nutrition, because you have control over what you eat. I can't control that. I can control your structure, chiropractic care. We can work on muscles. We can work on organs. We can work on the spine. I can't control you once you leave my office. And that's why I want you to have that education. And it's tough. It's tough to change your diet. I know. Because you're so used to eating foods. Cheap food is available. Unhealthy food is available. And the kicker of it all is unhealthy food tastes good. I'm not going to lie to you. I know that too. And a lot of that has to do with the chemicals that we add to the food to make the food taste better. We add things like monosodium glutamate, which is a flavor enhancer. So it's a little tricky sometimes to eat the good diet. It's not impossible, but the cool part is once you start eating it, you'll save a ton of money. That's what's so neat about it. Grass-fed. I'm going to go back to meat here again. Again, I don't eat meat, but if you eat meat, you might see the term that says grass-fed. They always have these beautiful scenes with the cows out in the field, the happy cows, and you're thinking, oh, that's so nice, that cows are happy. Grass-fed is a term that's sort of regulated by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and they defined it to mean that the animal ate 100% grass and no corn or soy and had continuous access to pasture throughout its life. So in theory, that sounds like a pretty good thing. USDA allows anyone to use the terminology provided the meat producer submits the documentation saying that's what he or she is doing. No farm inspections are required to meet the definition. Furthermore, due to this rule, which went into place in 2006, anyone could use the term grass-fed on food products, and those people were grandfathered in under a new law whether they met the requirements or not. So anybody could say it, basically. So it's sort of kind of regulated by the USDA, but not really. And the final kicker, the rule applies only to cattle and other ruminant animals. Now, ruminants are animals that have multiple stomachs. And you'll often see it on packages of pork or chicken, animals that can't survive on grass alone. You can't just feed pigs or chicken just grass and it won't work. They'll die. So sometimes you'll see it just because it creates that nice little feeling, that little warm fuzzy. What you want to look is for the words U.S. grass-fed accompanied by USDA process verified. It has a little shield on it. And that would be the only way you can really tell. The best way to make sure you're getting animals that are grass-fed, beef specifically, would be to get organic. Organic has to be grass-fed. Grass-fed doesn't have to be organic. Did you follow that? So again, any animal products, I'd recommend organic only. Antibiotic-free. Like no hormones, antibiotic-free is pretty much a meaningless term. It's actually illegal to use on packages according to the USDA. Manufacturers skirt the issue by saying things like raised without antibiotics or no antibiotics administered. The meat producers use these phrases while dousing the animals with antimicrobials, drugs, and these things work identically to antibiotics, but are defined differently by the FDA. So they give them antimicrobials, not antibiotics. which essentially does the same thing. So it's tough, isn't it? Somebody came to me the other day and said, Dr. Joe, this is so confusing. I said, I know it's confusing. Here's the simple rules. Cut back a lot of the variety you have in your diet and cut it back to 4 things: fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. If you can do fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, or mostly that, you're going to solve a lot of problems. I also say you have to have the nervous system working, because the nervous system controls everything. Your diet feeds the nervous system, which then controls your digestive system, which then absorbs nutrients from your diet. So it's a big circle. You got to get not just the diet working, you have to get the nervous system working. Your brain is sending messages down your spine, out your nerves, to every cell in the body. The heart, the lungs, the liver, the spleen, the kidneys. Everything has nerves going to it. Chemically, we can alter a nerve by bad diet, and so can we alter a nerve physically. And that's where my team of doctors come in. If you have a bone out of place or a muscle spasm pinching a nerve, it can hurt. So if I'm pinching a nerve and it hurts, what's the most logical thing to do? Unpinch it. There you go. See how smart you guys are? The most logical thing to do is unpinch the nerve. Now, if I have a blazing headache, I want to take a painkiller. I can't move my back, I want to take a painkiller. But then I want to get to the cause of the problem as well. So I understand that you're not going to be such a purist that you're going to say, well, I'm never going to do anything to cover up my pain. Sometimes it's okay to cover up your pain, but then you got to fix it. That's where chiropractic comes in. If the bones are out of place, put them back in place. On my way into the studio, I ran into one of my friends here. I won't say his name, but very, very world-famous news reporter. And he came to us as a patient, and he said, I'm amazed how much better I feel. He says, I'm able to go hiking. He says, I go hiking with my dogs all the time now. He says, and I joke with him because he does some promotions like that on the air. And I said, I know why you can go hiking. He goes, it's because of you guys. So it's kind of fun. So if you have problems, neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, and you'd like to come see us in our offices, we have offices in Marietta and Duluth, and soon we're going to be in Stockbridge. We'd love to have you come to our offices. You can go to our website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe with the number 1 Dr. Joe in the world, and we can set you up a time to come see us. If you have digestive problems, acid reflux, heartburn, burping, gas, bloating, many times it's something wrong with the digestive system, and I can discuss with you how hopefully we can get that fixed. And then we'll look at your diet as well. So go to our website. You can make an appointment. Either do it online or call us. Now, there are 2 rules. If you make an appointment, you got to show up, because I'm going to reserve time just for you. And if you don't show up, you're taking that away from somebody else. But here's the other rule. I want you to be ready to make some changes in your life. Don't come to me and sit down, talk to me for a while and go, you know what, I'm not willing to do anything. Don't waste my time. Don't waste yours. I want to work with people who are serious about wanting to get well. So we accept most major medical insurances, car accidents. Folks, if you've ever been in a car accident, ever, the sooner you get to us, the better off it's going to be. Now, if it was 50 years ago, the sooner you get to us, the better it's going to be. If it was yesterday, same rules apply. We work with the insurance companies, the attorneys. We, like I said, accept most major medical insurances, Medicare. We do the filing for you. So if you want to come see us, please do it right now. Don't wait, because you're going to be miserable and you're going to say, why didn't I do this sooner? Go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe. We'll get you set up as soon as possible. And we'd love to have the opportunity to treat you and your friends and your family and your children. If kids start out straight, they grow straight. If kids are crooked, they grow crooked. So we're talking today about how to read food labels. And so oftentimes it's confusing. And now the nutrition facts on the label. Anybody ever see that label and go, what the heck is, sodium versus carbohydrate versus cholesterol and saturated fats? The FDA allows food manufacturers to use averages when they do things like calorie counts, salt content, and fat. Pretty much any information on the nutrition food label. Manufacturers are allowed to be off by as much as, ready for this? 20%. I would love to be able to be off 20% on my taxes. Wouldn't that be great? You know what, Joe? We're going to give you a buffer. You can be a little high, a little low, but as long as you're within 20% of of what you should pay in your taxes, you're good. Well, how about your food? 20% off. So that means that a 500-calorie frozen dinner you're eating may actually have 600 calories. If every meal you ate added an extra 100 calories, you'd gain 30 pounds every year, assuming that you're eating what you should be eating. Isn't that crazy? And that's perfectly allowable. Now, if I'm a food manufacturer, and I'm going to throw my opinion here on this, I'm a food manufacturer, and I can go high on my calories or low on my calories. What am I going to do? probably going to go low. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just saying. As we say from New Jersey, I ain't saying, I'm just saying, which really never made any sense to me. But I say it a lot too. FDA allows manufacturers to put 0 in the amount of trans fats per serving as long as the trans fat are below 0.5 grams. That's a quarter of your day's worth allowable. Now, by 2018, trans fats are supposed to be out of our food supply. So right now, it's still there. 2018 is supposed to be all phased out. Trans fats are directly linked to heart disease. Now, I talked about this, 20, 30 years ago, and it was not known. And then it became well known that trans fat and hydrogenated oils are number one cause of heart disease in this country, and things like margarine and fat in a can that you make cookies and biscuits with. These are the things that are directly linked to heart disease. So if I'm talking about it today, any of my shows, I promise you it's going to become mainstream in the near future. Why wait? My concern is how many people have to wait and maybe even die before they do something about it. Smoking was okay. Remember when smoking was okay? Doctors recommended it. When my mother was pregnant with me, the doctor said, why don't you just smoke? It'll help calm you down. How insane was that? How many people died? There were over 7,000 studies showing cigarette smoking is dangerous before the government came out and said, you know what? Maybe you should just cut back to smoking in moderation. Before that, it was okay to do that. 7,000 studies. How come 6,000 studies weren't enough? How come 4,000 studies weren't enough? How come one study wasn't enough? How many people were sick and died before it finally became acceptable to do these things? That's what I want you to understand. I don't want you to become a statistic. So what do we do about food labels? Avoid packaged foods. That's the easiest thing to do. If a food without nutritional facts labels like fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, they don't have these labels, they're going to be a better choice. When you buy them, read the ingredient labels, not the nutrition labels. And that's going to be the key. If you see words like hydrogenated oil, partially hydrogenated oil, trans fats, stay away from them. Don't eat them. It's just that simple. Now, some people say, well, Doc, I travel. I'm a truck driver. I travel for my business. And I know a lot of people, of course, travel for their jobs. I have a lecture that I did. It's on my website. And if you go to my website, I think we still have it. If you type in your email address, I'll send you a lecture called So What Can I Eat? I know it's on my SoundCloud. So if you go to my radio shows that I have archived, I think I have it in 2016. If you look under there, you'll see So What Can I Eat? And I want you to listen to that. It's free. And it's about an hour. And it's me talking about what you can eat. Because you always hear me talk about the bad foods: alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, artificial sweetener, breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pastas. And you think, well, that's my whole diet. I can't eat anything if I can't eat those bad foods. So what can you eat? Answer those questions. There's like 120,000 foods you can eat. So you're not going to starve, I promise you. I've been eating this way for 30 years, and I keep getting better. Because years ago, we didn't know about certain things we know about today. And I was like, oh, I got to take that off my list of things I can't eat. And there's, like I said, plenty of things you can eat. So, folks, why do I talk about food? Because when it comes to food, the food affects your nervous system. And as a chiropractor, I want to get your nervous system working. So if you have a traditional chiropractic problem, neck pain, headaches, numbness, tingling, leg pain, back pain, and you want to make an appointment to come see us, we'd love that. But then think outside the box. What about my nutrition and how it affects my nervous system? How about acid reflux? If you have acid reflux, you're not digesting your food properly. Gas and bloating, not digesting your food properly. So we can oftentimes adjust or massage the stomach to get it to come out of spasm to digest your food properly so that you can absorb your nutrients to feed your nervous system, which controls your digestive system. All ties together. So if you want to make an appointment to come see us, for you, your friends, your family, your children, I would love the opportunity to have me and my team of doctors work with you. We have offices in Marietta, Duluth, and soon in Stockbridge. If you want to make an appointment, go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe, and we'll set you up a time as soon as possible to come in. We accept most major medical insurances, car accidents, sports injuries, workers' comp. We want the opportunity to be your doctors. And we take cash patients, of course, because so many people have such crazy deductibles that we don't charge enough to meet your deductible. How's that for a great service? So go to my website if you want to make an appointment, drjoeesposito.com. We archive radio shows there. Send me questions. I got to go to a break. Tell your friends about the show. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. Hey, folks, thanks for staying with me. I'm Dr. Joe Esposito. If you're just joining us, welcome. Glad you could be here. And we're talking today about how to read food labels and what do those things on those food labels really mean. Because so often it's deceptive. And you think you're doing the right thing, and you're not. In fact, there was just a report out, finally, and I'll put this in the Dr. Joe Was Right column. We have a lot of those Dr. Joe Was Right columns, that says you shouldn't be drinking orange juice because drinking orange juice is essentially like drinking a can of soda. It's just about the same amount of sugar, and it has a little bit of nutrition, but not much. Now, I've been talking for years how you shouldn't be drinking fruit juices, not just orange juice, because there's so much sugar in these foods. And sugar really is evil. Sugar is the thing that'll harden your arteries. It'll lead to cancer, osteoporosis, dementia, diabetes, heart disease. So we really want to stay away from the sugar. And just because it came from fruit, I used to think anyway, before I was educated, that fruit sugar was good. It was a natural sugar. Doesn't matter. In fact, fructose, the fruit sugar, has to be converted into glucose so that you can use it as a fuel in your cells. And too much fructose can cause uric acid to form. Uric acid gets in your joints and it hurts. I'm a chiropractor. What do I want to do? I want to get you out of pain. And I can do chiropractic with you and put the bones back in place and release muscle spasms. But if you keep putting things like uric acid into your diet, it's going to increase your pain levels. So no fruit juice is good because you need the fiber and the nutrients with it, not just the fruit. Now, also, you might think, well, orange juice is good for what? Cold, right? It's high in vitamin C. Orange juice produces mucus. You ever notice that? You drink orange juice, you get that feeling in your throat? That's the mucus formed. You don't want more mucus when you have a cold. You want less mucus. So finally, a new report came out verifying that Dr. Joe was right, as usual, and you shouldn't be drinking the fruit juices. So yay for that. Now, I heard somebody say on the air the other day, well, I don't drink orange juice, I drink cranberry juice. Well, if it's pure cranberry juice, that's okay. Pure cranberry juice is expensive, and it's very, very bitter. So when people have urinary tract infections, they say, would drink cranberry juice. The answer is yes, you should. There's components in cranberry juice that prevent the bacteria from sticking to your bladder and your urethra, and it flushes out the bacteria, which helps with the infection. The problem is that most people don't drink cranberry juice. They drink cranberry juice cocktail. What's the difference? Cranberry juice cocktail is almost all sugar. So pure cranberry juice, expensive, tastes awful. You can dilute it with water. If you want to sweeten it, don't sweeten it with sugar because sugar feeds the bacteria and can make the infection worse. You want to use stevia if you want to sweeten it, or just mix it with water, put on your big boy panties and drink them because that'll help with the infection. And it's loaded with vitamin C. It's great. It's loaded with antioxidants. Just don't eat the cranberry juice cocktail or drink the cranberry juice cocktail. That's where the junk comes in. So you see how food labeling, one word can change everything? Cranberry juice cocktail. Not a good idea. Talking about food labels, what do they mean? Cage-free. All the time, patients come in my offices or I do phone consultations. We do phone consultations with folks all over the world for nutrition. And they'll say, well, I said, you eat organic? Oh, doc, I only eat organic eggs, let's say. Okay. They say organic on them? Oh, yeah, it says cage-free. Where's the disconnect? Where does the word organic suddenly translate into cage-free? I don't know. I've never heard that translation before. So I say cage-free? Does it say organic? No. The only time an egg is organic is if it says organic. So you're likely to see this label on poultry products, things like eggs, even packages of chicken, cage-free. Both cases, very misleading. Eggs, the implication is that chickens laid them and aren't kept in tiny cages and are widely, they're out in the farm and they're, picking at grass and eating bugs. Not true. They're usually in farm factories. In most cage-free operations, the animals still live in windowless hen houses, not outside where they're out digging around eating bugs. And there's no independent third party that certifies egg producers as cage-free, so you really have to take their word. Now, the word cage-free is interesting. They may not be in a cage, but they're in this little hen house, wing to wing. I was going to say shoulder to shoulder. I don't know if chickens have shoulders. And they're walking around in their own filth. And they may have a door that you can open to the outside, and that's what makes it cage-free. You can say, or free range is another word I guess I'm looking for there. Free range means they open a door and say, want to go out? Now they're chickens. Chickens are chicken. They don't want to go out. So they open the door and say, want to go out? Nope. Okay. So now they're free range. No, they're not. They never went out. They never saw sunlight in their entire lives in many cases. Now, broiler chickens, these are the chickens raised for meat, are rarely kept in cages. That's a standard industry practice because cage hens suffer and they can make the meat less appealing. So if you're going to eat animal products again, don't be duped thinking that cage-free means organic. Only organic means organic. Now, I don't eat meat. I get around it easily. I don't eat any animal products. Now, that being said, again, I'm a realist. If you're going to eat meat or any animal products, organic only. All right, let's get away from animal products for a second. Let's start talking about grains. Multigrain. Hear it all the time. Doc, my sandwiches I have every day, my tuna sandwiches, they're always on a multigrain bread. You think you're doing something good. You're eating tuna fish and you're eating a multigrain bread. Let's talk about the tuna fish first. Tuna fish is a fatty fish. And when fish are fatty and big like tuna, they've been around for a long time. And fat cells in you and tuna and cows are a great place to store toxic chemicals. So I always tell people, if you're fat, you're not fat, you're toxic. So what can we do about that? Detoxify yourself. Tuna fish, in most cases, in fact, I don't know of any cases that aren't, are loaded with mercury. Mercury is a heavy metal. And I had somebody ask me the other day about flu vaccine. And does the flu vaccine contain mercury? And I said, in most cases, it contains mercury and aluminum. And they said, now, what does mercury and aluminum do? Well, it's a heavy metal. It can get into your nervous system and adversely affect your nervous system and cause the nervous system, specifically the brain, to shut down or malfunction. Some people can detoxify mercury. They have a natural way to get rid of it. Some people can't. And that's where the problem comes in. You don't know if you can or can't until it's in you. So when mercury gets into your body from like tuna fish, it can cause neurological damage. And once again, I want to be your chiropractor. And I want to make sure your nervous system is as healthy as it can be, chemically and physically. I think it's California. I've seen it there. There's labels on tuna fish for pregnant women. You know, if you're pregnant, you shouldn't eat more than, like, I don't know, a can a month or something like that. Now, why? Because the mercury can adversely affect the development of the fetus. I don't want to eat anything that can adversely affect the fetus. Even though I'm not a fetus, chances are it's going to be adversely affecting my nervous system as well. So think you're having a multigrain sandwich with tuna fish, not a good idea. If you're going to eat canned fish, once again, I wouldn't eat it. I don't eat it. Do canned salmon. Canned salmon is always wild caught. Wild caught salmon, less likely to have a lot of contaminants. Farm raised, any fish, not a good idea. Atlantic salmon is always farm raised. Alaskan salmon is always wild. So if you're going to eat salmon, make sure it's wild caught. And in fact, farm raised salmon is not pink, it's gray. And we have to add dye to it to make it pretty and pink, or else you wouldn't eat it. You wouldn't eat gray salmon. Well, the farm-raised salmon, the ones that are really bright colored, are dyed that way. So now not only eating a farm-raised salmon that might have eaten chicken poop and pig poop and steroids and hormones and chemicals and soy and corn, you're also eating a dye that really isn't going to be good for you either. So you have to start thinking, how can I make better choices? I digressed again. Let's go back to multigrain. If one grain is good, well, multigrain is better, right? Well, the multigrains use multiple versions of unhealthy, refined grains. So it's not just one bad grain, it's a bunch of bad grains. And that could be what you're getting when you reach for that multigrain loaf. The FDA has never explicitly stated that anything labeled multigrain must contain the whole version of all grains that it's used. And the food makers like to use that claim on wheat because it makes their products seem healthier than it does. So the way wheat is raised is like this. Years ago, many years ago when I was your age, wheat was very high, amber waves of grain, and the wheat was very high. Well, the farmers realized there was a problem there. What was happening was a lot of the energy and the nutrients was being wasted on growing the stalk and not being put into the wheat kernels. So through hybridization, crossbreeding, not genetic modification, hybridization, it's different. We now grow short, stocky wheat with a lot of grain in it. Well, it's good business, right? And it has a coating around it called bran, wheat bran. And on the bottom of the kernel, there's something called the endosperm, or the germ, I'm sorry. The germ is where the vitamins are, the vitamin E and the nutrients are. And the rest of it is just basically endosperm. It's white powder. It's the flour that you eat. So when we pick wheat, we have to cut out the germ because that has oils in it and it goes rancid pretty quickly. And we take off the bran because the bran is going to, it's not, that changes the flavor of it. And what's left is white flour. This white flour is then processed and bleached. And that's what white bread is. So we can use multigrains that have been processed to death, literally to death, and that's a multigrain bread. Doesn't mean it's good for you. And the problem is this. It's still a lot of sugar. That endosperm breaks down into sugar. And the sugar, when it gets into the body, causes all sorts of problems. Your body can only use a little bit of sugar as fuel. The rest of it gets stored as glycogen. Glycogen is the place we store energy. And then once all the glycogen storehouses are filled up, we convert it into triglycerides, which gets stored as fat. And that's why sugar makes you fat. And that's why wheat makes you fat. Now, wheat also has a protein in it called gluten. And gluten contains gliadin and glutenin. We don't have the enzymes, we humans don't have the enzymes to properly break down gliadin and glutenin, which is gliadin and glutenin, which is gluten. And that can cause allergic reactions because these big chunks of protein now can get into our blood system, and the immune system has to attack it. And when it attacks it, it causes an autoimmune condition. Not a pretty sight. So we really want to straighten these things out. We want to stop putting these toxins in our body. And grains are not good for us. There are no good grains. There's some that are not as bad, like quinoa might be a little better than wheat. Millet doesn't have gluten in it, still a lot of sugar. So that may not be the best thing. Now, seeds are okay. So if you have a bread with a bunch of seeds on top of it, well, don't eat the bread, eat the seeds. But I want you to think about that. Multigrain isn't such a good thing just because it breaks down into sugar. If you look for something that says 100% whole grain, at least it's the whole grain, but still not good for you. So is it hard to give up bread? Yeah. I'm Italian, believe me. When I realized that I was having adverse reactions to eating bread and pasta, I was miserable. And I thought the same thing you're thinking. There's nothing I can eat. I'm going to starve. So that's one of the reasons I wrote my first book. It's called Eating Right for the Health of It. And the first half of the book tells you how to change your diet. How do you do this? How do you go to parties? What if you're raising kids? Additives, things like monosodium glutamate. I have a whole page on many different names for monosodium glutamate, which is a toxin to the nervous system. Autolyzed yeast, hydrolyzed vegetable protein, even natural flavors can be monosodium glutamate or glutamic acid. And so that's not something I want to put in my body. But then the second half of the book, people kept coming to me and saying, what do you eat? So I started writing down things. Well, I had this for breakfast, this for lunch, this for dinner. I had a date that night. I made this, I made that. And one thing led to another, and it evolved into the amazing, this book has been selling like crazy for many years now, called Eating Right for the Health of It. And that book's extremely popular. I don't know how many tens of thousands of copies we've sold, and we send it all over the world. And you can get a copy too. I think you should, because it tells you how to change your diet and then actual recipes that you can put into your body and make your body feel good. Everything in there is real cheap. Everything is easy. You can buy this stuff at a regular grocery store. There's nothing fancy about it, but everything in there is delicious. Whenever I have friends over, if I'm trying to impress somebody, I'll make them any dish out of the book. It doesn't matter. This is really good. You mean this doesn't have any animal products? Nope. Doesn't have any gluten in it? Nope. Doesn't have any soy in it? Nope. Really? I never had, fill in the blank, this good. Sun-dried tomato basil pesto, soups, pasta fazool. I'm Italian, so we got to throw a lot of Italian recipes in there. I got even raw desserts in there, raw pies and different desserts to eat. Soup, salad dressings. People go, I don't know what to eat. It's all there. That's in Eating Right for the Health of It. You can get that on my website. Now, another thing my website is good for is if you want to make an appointment to come see us. I would love to have the opportunity, my team of doctors and I, to work with you, your friends, and your family to help you get well and stay well. So here's my question. Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Do you have neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, digestive problems, fatigue? You name the healthcare problem. I would like the opportunity to see if it's a nervous system issue, a digestive system issue, or a dietary issue. It's almost always all of them. Sometimes not always digestion, but the nervous system and diet is almost everyone. So if you want to make an appointment, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe with the number one Dr. Joe in the world. You can call my office. You can do it online. We accept most major medical insurances, Medicare. Yep, last doctors in the world take Medicare. Car accidents, sports injuries. We want to be your doctors. And everywhere I go, doctors are dropping out of practice left and right and front and center. Doctors are graduating, and they have $220,000 in debt on average now, and there are no jobs that can afford to pay that. So you're seeing less and less people getting into the healthcare profession because they can't afford to. They can't afford to not work for all those years, lose all that money, and end up owing $210,000, $220,000. So they're saying, I can go become a computer programmer. Why do I want to become a doctor? So in the future, I promise you, you're going to be in deep doo-doo. You're not going to be able to find a lot of doctors that you want. So that's why I want you to take control of your health. So make the appointment today, right now. Don't wait. Website, drjoeesposito.com. Google Dr. Joe. We'll get you set up as soon as possible. So we're talking today about reading labels, but if you're eating food that has labels on it, chances are you're not getting the proper nutrition. So there's one supplement I would recommend that everybody take, and it's Dr. Joe's Super Greens, well, two, and Dr. Joe's Essential Source. Because Super Greens and Essential Source are loaded with nutrients. It's the minimum amount of nutrients you need every single day. I take them every single day. I have them sitting right here in the studio with me right now. I take it at least once a day. Now, if I'm doing something, a big event, a big lecture, if I'm going to do a book signing, if I'm going to do a live performance, I'm going on a date, I'll take a second dose of Super Greens and Essential Source. Stuff's amazing. I am so happy I created it. And in fact, it even helped my vision. I have a condition called macular degeneration. And when I started taking it 3 years ago, my macular degeneration has gotten 80% better. No one gets better from macular degeneration. They stay the same or get worse and go blind. Mine is getting better because I'm giving my body such large doses of antioxidants and nutrients. So you should get some of that as well. Go to my website. You can buy it there, drjoeesposito.com. You can pick it up in our offices, or we can mail it to you, either way. So we're talking today about reading labels, and read the labels on Super Greens and Essential Source. You'll be very impressed, by the way. Bpa-Free. This is a big buzzword, and I want to cover this because it's important, and you see it, and you don't know what it means. BPA stands for bisphenol A, and it's a chemical, and we use it oftentimes in plastics, and we use it as a plastic lining of cans so that the cans become nonstick and the food slides out of the can. More of the food packaging is starting to claim BPA-free, and it's everywhere, and it's good. I'm glad to see we're seeing that. Nearly all canned foods contain a plastic lining made from BPA unless it says BPA-free. 5 years ago, I never saw cans that said BPA-free, and now I'm starting to see it more and more. So people like me, educating people like you, are forcing the industry to make changes. So you see BPA-free, now you get a sense of security that the chemical isn't leaching into your body because it can affect your reproductive organs, lead to things like heart disease, certain types of cancer. Now, these items may not be leaching BPA-free, but they could be leaching some other chemicals. A recent study published in Environmental Health Perspective found that all plastic leach chemicals that interfere with your reproductive system, some even more potent than BPA. Man, now we got a problem. All plastics leach chemicals. So if you're putting anything warm into plastic, now cold stuff, not so much, it's not going to affect it, unless you freeze something in plastic, and then it can scratch the container and release the chemicals. So you want to opt for things that are packaged in glass or aseptic cartons. Some of those like boxed soups like that, or certain like soy milk or almond milk. Those seem to be okay. Bring your own glass or stainless steel to-go cartons when you go out to eat. Because if you have hot food and they put it in a styrofoam container, guess what? It's going to leach in there. Plastic containers, it's going to leach in there. So you can bring your own. I save every glass jar that's of any size. And in my pantry, I have 2 shelves of glass jars of all different sizes. The reason is I like to, in the winter, make soup. Easy, quick, cheap. I throw it in the crock pot. In fact, right now at my house, split pea soup is cooking. And it's carrots, onions, celery, split peas. I throw in 4, my crock pot's pretty big, 4 vegetarian bouillon cubes and water, and then split peas or beans or whatever it is. Same recipe, depending on what I add, split peas or beans or lentils. Turn it on for 6 hours, come home, it's done. It's quick, it's easy, it's cheap, and then I store it in glass containers. And what's nice is I can give them away. You know, if somebody doesn't bring it back, no big deal. I'm going to get more glass containers because most of the things I buy, whether it's organic pickles or vegetarian mayonnaise, they're in glass containers. So I can give them away. If I drop one and break it, no big deal. I froze one the other day and I put too much lentil soup in there, cracked the jar. So glass is a much better choice because it's not going to leach all those toxic chemicals. Baby bottles, please, I'm begging you. They're already sucking on a nipple. At least make the bottle glass. And then you can sterilize it. It's real easy. Don't use those plastic baby bottles if you can. There is one exception, BPA-free claim you can trust. There's a company called Eden Foods, E-D-E-N, and they make beans, rice, chilies, and all their cans really are BPA-free, and they're lined with a plant-based plastic. And it's currently, as far as I know, the only company in the country that has that. So save your salsa jars, save your pickle jars, save your vegetarian mayonnaise jars. And what I do is I get the smaller jars, and I mix my super greens and essential sauce in that jar. Because I like to shake it, because it's a powder. It doesn't have, both of them are powders. They don't have any preservatives or anti-caking agents, so they don't mix up real nicely. So you got to shake it up, and I find that's the most effective way to do it. You can put it in a blender too, but I like to put it in a jar, shake it up, and then I drink it. Go home, throw the jar in the dishwasher, we're fine. On a side note, make sure you're not using toxic dishwashing chemicals. I always get the natural ones. I go to that store you've probably never been to, the health food store, and I get my dishwashing soap there because soap can leave a residue, and that can be a problem. And it's fine. They work fine. I use natural clothes soap, dish soap. In my shower, I use Castile soap, which is a liquid soap. Once you start using Castile soap, you'll never want to use another soap because it rinses off so clean. It moisturizes your skin. It's actually good for you as opposed to most toxic chemical soaps that are bad for you. I used to have a reaction to deodorant soap. If I used deodorant soap when I was a kid, if it got in my eyes or on my lips, my eyes would swell up to the point where they'd shut. And I was having an allergic reaction to deodorant soap. I don't use deodorant soap anymore, so I don't know if I still have the reaction or not. So, folks, if you're just tuning in, unfortunately, you missed an amazing show. But the good news is I'm going to take this and hundreds of hours of other shows, put it on my website, drjoeesposito.com, or Google Dr. Joe. You can listen to archive radio shows. Hey, check to see if I'm doing a live lecture near you. I got a lot of live lectures coming up. Love to have you come out to my live lectures. If I'm in your area, come on out. Most of them are free. Sometimes they charge a few bucks, but believe me, it's worth it. I videotape my lectures and put them on my website so you can watch them if you're a visual learner. Archived radio shows. If you have questions, send them to me through the website. You can order Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source and other supplements right there on the website. We have articles you can read as well. And if you want to make an appointment to come see us, and I think you should, because if your goal is to get well and stay well, and I'm assuming that's why you're listening to this show, you can do that. Now, if you're in the Atlanta area where my offices are, great. If you're outside the Atlanta area, we can always do a phone consultation. I'm more than happy to do that with you, too. So go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, or Google Dr. Joe, #1 Dr. Joe in the world. We'll set you up a time to come see us. We accept most major medical insurances, car accidents, sports injuries, workers' comp. Even if you don't have insurance, folks, chances are if you have a high deductible, I'm not going to even meet your deductible because our care at our office is so affordable. So once again, make the decision to get well and stay well. Go to my website, drjoeesposito.com. We'll get you set up as soon as possible. Hey, thanks for listening. Tell your friends about the show. We'll talk to you next time. Next time. Next time. Next time. Next time. Next time.